our parents expect us to be a college preparatory school.
A lot of use cases like students are talking to AI as a companion. They're talking to AI as a mental health.
Face-to-face interaction, we try to make sure that there are adults accessible.
This brings me to a question. Have you guys tried anything beyond academics, use of AI? So welcome back to TomoClub Podcast series. I'm Avinash Bansal, your co-founder at TomoClub. And today in our discussion, we have the head of school at Darlington Schools. His name is Brent Bell. And we're going to have the discussion around responsible AI use in schools. Welcome to our podcast, Brent.
Thank you, Avinash. It's great to be here.
So before we jump into any discussion, Brent, I always start my discussion. What got you to education in the first place?
Right. Great question. So I am the son of an educator. My mom was a elementary school principal for many years. So I think I was always drawn to teaching probably and coaching for sure in some way. So when I graduated from college, I was fortunate to get a job in public schools outside of Richmond, Virginia. Taught there for 5 years, got a great variety of experiences, and then actually pivoted to independent schools, where I've been in 3 different independent schools for about 25 years now, maybe a little, but 25, 26 years in independent school education.
Okay. So you have seen both worlds of public schools and private schools.
I have, yes.
And the reason that you joined this industry, of course, I think family has a huge influence on our life decisions, but it's been a while. So do you think the reason that you got in is still relevant for you?
I think so. I think, it's a chance to make a difference, make an impact on the lives of students, to share your time with like-minded colleagues. And I think all of those things, probably I found more after I got into a school community, probably more so than, kind of taking classes, education classes and things like that. But, to have a classroom, to have students in your class, to coach teams, to share those experiences, I think that was a driving force for me and certainly continues to be. My role is a little bit different now. I guess I'm more in charge of making sure that we have the right people to help carry out those experiences and relationships for our students.
No, I absolutely understand that change of scope of work from student facing to administration. So do you miss working with kids on a daily basis?
I do. I think that, when you get into administration, I think you have to be cognizant of that distance. Every time you probably take a position, you get a little bit farther away. And so if you don't want that, I think it's not wise to look into those positions. Now, I will say that, Darlington is a boarding school. We have a boarding school component in our upper school, and that creates a very different culture when faculty and students are living on campus. You have 3 meals a day. It kind of creates a little bit less of a formality to the day and stretches the time that colleagues have with each other, students have to interact with each other. And so that's been great for me in terms of that idea of connection to students.
No, I always remember a lot of my cousins, in my family were also going through a boarding school, and I was more a day scholar. I used to live nearby a school. And, I always had these mixed emotions. Like in the early days, I used to feel, oh, I'm so lucky I live close by. And while I was growing up, I was like, I wish I would also be living in a boarding school because I could see the amount of fun they used to have.
Right.
I did have some experience of that when I was in college. But yeah, I think how they describe a boarding school to me is altogether having a second family. Like the relationship that they have. Like I went to those cousins' wedding, and like those relationship is altogether different. and what they have built up in boarding school. So I am pretty envious that I didn't have that chance as a kid.
Yeah.
So while I was before again, I think I always like to have a mind map of the school and the person that I'm talking to. So I would love to know, as an independent school, as a private school, what do families expect from you? And because again, they're paying tuition out of pocket. How does their psychology work? Do they expect a lot from you, from the curriculum library part, from new technologies to stay relevant? How does that work out?
That's a great question. So I think first and foremost, probably the simplest way to answer that is our parents expect us to be a college preparatory school.
Okay.
So 100% of our students are have the option to go to college, and I think that's sort of the primary sort of overarching kind of expectation, if you will. And then they choose Darlington, I think, in part, certainly for that, but also because they like the ideals, and the principles of the school, which are, based around the school's mission, which really boils down to it's not only a place that values your intellectual and academic growth, but also your growth and development as a person. So we say that our mission is to empower. We would say empower means help them figure out what they can do for themselves to learn with passion, act with integrity, and serve with respect. And I think that's what draws and keeps students and families in our school, knowing that those skills are things that are going to benefit them in college and beyond. And but at the same time, they're not just going to be successful in the ways that we maybe as a society measure success, but also because they're making a difference.
Mhm.
They're making the world a little bit better.
No, absolutely. I 100% agree with that. In fact, I have a small son, so now the discussion among my colleagues is also to choose the place of residence depending on the school. Like school becoming
Right,
center
right,
of our
sure.
decision
Hmm.
making, of our living standards and everything else. So I totally understand that college readiness is definitely one of the primary goal. But over the last few years, there has been a, how should I put it nicely? There has been a trend of decline in college as a goal definition for schools. A lot of people are, even at the affluent side of the society, they are looking at college not the obvious go-to choice after school. So,
Right.
have you seen that kind of conversation where people are expecting schools to prepare kids right away for employment, maybe, or something like that?
I think that certainly, in our broader community, we've got two very strong college and career academies in the public system here. But for Darlington, and I think for a lot of other independent schools, the investment there in their child's education, paying tuition and things like that, the primary driver still is that the next step will be college and the child's kind of educational journey. I do think that we've added some programs and enhanced some programs to allow students to get certifications or to encourage them to do different things like that in the summertime, as a means of making them more interesting and marketable, for lack of a better term, as they think about what comes next. But for us as specifically as a school, it's still the vast majority are thinking about a 4-year college after Darlington.
No, makes sense. Do you guys track that? Do you have any metrics of like college admission percentage to Ivy Leagues, and like do you do kind of backtrack?
We do, we do. We certainly, we have the traditional college list. We know where our students are applying, where they want to go. We have about, say 110 to 120 graduates on a normal year. Probably a third of those stay within the state of Georgia, a third stay in the southeastern United States, and a third go everywhere else. So we'll see students at 70 different colleges in any one graduating class for us, which we love that statistic. What we would love to be able to measure more or more easily is we feel like, and we hear anecdotally from our graduates that they are prepared for college, that they're ready for, whatever the next challenges are, and they're able to sort of take advantage of that. But it would be great to be able to see, what percentage graduate in 4 years, how many are double majors, um, you know, how many of our students end up transferring, not transferring, different things like that would be great tracking items that we would love to do more with. We just haven't quite figured out um, all the best ways to stay in touch.
No, I agree. I think for whether it's for schools or whether it's colleges, the alumni network becomes the ultimate, I would say, in a way, status symbol in the market.
Mm-hmm.
I think it becomes
Mm-hmm.
a big factor of having that community feeling. Like I know people can still swear on their schools and can go an
Yes,
extra
yes.
mile for if they just get a no in the, like say in a working professionals universe, if they get to know that somebody is sharing the same school, they'll go an extra
Mm-hmm.
mile. So I think that's power and intensity I have seen. Um, Also, do you guys do any kind of college partnerships where you arrange college visits? Because as a child, I actually did that. I visited three universities around my area, which I aspired, and I think nothing better could give me that vision. And I got into one of the top 10 universities of engineering in India because of
Yeah.
that vision. So, do you do something like that?
We do. We have a pretty unique college advising system. In many schools of our kind, you have maybe two or three college counselors. They're responsible for the entire class. We actually have those college counselors, but then we also have 11 other members of the faculty who serve as college advisors, and they work with a very small number of students. And therefore, they're able to get a little bit more personalized attention, have some more specific conversations. And we're fortunate with our geographic location that we've got a variety of colleges and universities nearby, which in some ways we just have natural relationships with, whether you're going there for a Model UN competition or an athletic event or to hear a speaker or something like that. But then we also make sure that our students have opportunities to visit. We like to say different sort of types of schools, maybe a large state public university, a small private college, so that you can kind of see, to your point, what might be a good fit for you, what might be good opportunities there as well. Colleges come to campus here as well. We just had 150 colleges on campus yesterday for our college fair.
Oh, wow.
And that's something that all of our high school students attend, ninth, 10th, 11th, and 12th grades, not just our older students for those exact reasons that you're talking about. But I agree, getting a chance to be on college campuses makes a huge difference in the search process.
That's so cool. Literally, the college are pitching to the kids to come into their
Hmm.
college. That's
Hmm.
that's absolutely brilliant. And I'm so sorry, I just got carried away with this particular segment so much
No,
that
it's okay. No worries.
it's very intriguing to me how the parent expectation part becomes the I realize that becomes the driving force for every decision making in the school. Um, so coming to the second part that I want to ask is about the legacy versus innovation. So it's a
Hmm.
60-year-old school, very reputed. It's a historic institution. Uh, so where does this legacy become a baggage? And how do you preserve tradition while still pushing responsibly on AI or new pedagogies?
Hmm. So that's such an interesting question, Avinash, and we could talk about this for hours. So I think Darlington is fortunate in that in its founding, um, we are the first high school, for example, public or private, in Rome, Georgia in 1905. Their, education ended in the eighth grade. So the school's always been about opportunity. And it's always been about creating that opportunity for first, just boys in this community. And then, right after World War I, we added the boarding program. So that's over a century old as well. So that meant more opportunity for more students, not just local students. We went co-ed and we integrated in the early 1970s. So then again, more opportunity, more ambition, more inclusion of different learners and things of that nature. So we've always been able to sort of focus on this idea of having a combination of tradition and ambition, and then focusing on what is it that our students need, more so than what it is that we remember worked for us. And so I think that idea has been really helpful for us. So, for example, we operate off of a cycle of learning, which focuses on a skills-based curriculum. So, we want to make sure that our students have the appropriate skills that they need to be successful here and beyond. And some of those are very traditional skills, right? We believe strongly that you still need to be able to read, you still need to be able to write, you still need to be able to communicate verbally. And something like artificial intelligence is an additional tool in that process of sort of what we would say finding your voice, creating your voice. And so, that's worked pretty well for us. Certainly, we still have the pressures of SATs and AP exams that other schools do. But I think by focusing on that skills-based curriculum, we're able to make a pretty compelling case that students are getting access to the information that they need to be successful in the short term and in the longer term.
Okay. So hence my question is null and void here, because if the school has always been innovating and always been in a constant change of motion,
Right.
then legacy doesn't become the legacy itself is about change. It's not a baggage. So that's good to know.
That's
Because
the way we'd like to look at it. I think there's always tension, for sure. But we've been fortunate. I think the other thing in particular to the topic, that we're thinking about in today and responsible use of AI is, Darlington made the decision a number of years ago to be a one-to-one school, to put technology tools in the hands of the students at young ages, and to be very purposeful in our curriculum around responsible use. We're a three-time Apple Distinguished School. And so I think when these really dramatic shifts, particularly that are connected to technology like AI, come into the educational landscape, we feel like we have our feet underneath us, because we've sort of always leaned into technology as a tool, not technology as the answer. And therefore, we were able to say, okay, this is another tool. What do we need to know? What do we need to learn? What do we need to experiment with to make sure that we're providing our students and teachers the resources that they need, for it to be a positive and not something scary.
right, right. No, absolutely. Though I do think that this entire space of AI is still like is yet to be uncovered in full potential. So
Right.
like honestly, when people consider it as a technology shift from computers, from calculators and computers, then internet to AI, I do see there is not always the same analogy to be drawn here, because it's a very different beast altogether, which is challenging the very basis of everything. But I'm glad to know that if there is a one-on-one kind of responsible use already in the culture, then of course it makes it easier uh, to propagate new change for sure.
Right, right. I think that's a great way to put it. And I think we are in the same camp that you are, and this is a I think somebody said I can't remember the quote exactly, but you know, change has never been faster, and and this is the slowest it will ever be moving forward.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree.
It's kind of where we are right now. So we're just getting started in an AI world. Absolutely. So
I think very simple way to visualize is the first chat GPT version came out in November 2022. It's not even 3 years, and we are conducting sessions with educators in schools.
right.
When has it happened before that a technology it has to be adopted? It's not even like
That's right.
optional.
That exactly. You've adopted it whether you think you are or not in some ways.
Yeah, and
Mm.
in fact, those educators that we are training, they are coming with their own set of preparations. They've been using it already. So the discussions is so insane that we're covering so many things. So yeah, I think it's constantly evolving. But again, I'm gonna wait it out. And last thing that I want to know about your school before we get into this discussion is about the difference between a public school and private school
Mhm.
governance practice, right? You are accountable to a private board, not to taxpayers in that way.
Right.
So how does your governance model, how does it bring good things like more agility, more room to change, and don't need to
Mhm.
align with the what's the government mandate versus the different kind of pressure that you might have to face? So if you can help us break that down.
I think that so, an independent school or a private school, we benefit obviously because we can see the standards, that a state, uh, mandates or, any sort of federal or national kind of programming and modeling and think about, how does our curriculum, again, help prepare students for their needs. I think the biggest things for us, and you think about the differences from a governance structure, is probably the big advantage is that we are unique, independent, singular institutions. So, in terms of providing access to resource, providing a culture of give it a try,
Hmm.
some trial and error, it's a whole lot easier because you're working with a lot fewer people, and you're working with those people, who are all, again, connected to, your mission. Where in this case, learning with passion, trying to be excited about learning something new, doing it honestly and ethically, are part of the, kind of the backbone of the school. So that's really helpful. The challenge probably comes most significantly from just scarcity of resource.
Hmm. Okay.
So the state or the federal government, um, you know, can't can provide significantly more funds for new programs, new opportunities, new hardware, new software, whatever the case may be, than a 100% financially self-sustaining independent school can.
Hmm.
So the ability to scale up, for example, programs or professional development opportunities, things of that nature, are certainly different for us, kind of as we think about how we steward our resources.
Hmm. Okay. Um, but there is more predictability in your case. Is it so in terms of budgetings? Because if I talk to my superintendents in public schools, they have this uncertainty that they live with, especially in August, September.
Right. Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. All of the things that you would associate with being an independent school, are definitely probably advantages in or opportunities to evolve and adapt and kind of create new opportunities, because there's just a smaller number of people that need to be involved in the process, from ideation to execution. And that makes a big difference. I think about when I taught in public school, we would all come from around the county to a professional development day, say one day a semester. In our school, we meet in professional learning communities, for 5 Wednesday mornings in a row. And those professional learning communities for this particular start of this school year are to learn and get comfortable with our new learning management system, which has amazing AI capabilities for teacher productivity, organization, and planning.
Which one is that?
We're using Toddle.
Okay. Oh, nice.
Yeah. And so, and again, this is the first year. So, I think those things are very different from a governance perspective. And we're very fortunate in that, people somewhere we don't know aren't making decisions for us.
No, absolutely. Now coming to the concept of AI,
Mhm.
how has been your experience with it? Like, when did you first time heard it? When did you guys decide that we need to work on it? And what has been your strategy around it?
So we, as you were mentioning, it's probably, I guess, really, pretty seriously, 2 or 3 years ago, maybe a little bit more than that. Certainly, as ChatGPT came on board, we, obviously, like most schools, a lot of the first was worry of cheating, cutting and pasting in the academic space. So we were pretty quick to sort of, remind our faculty that cheating is cheating, and this is just a new way to do it. And so, as the adults in the community, what are our responsibilities and expectations to make sure that we don't sort of create temptation in that regard. And so we had conversations with our students, individual classroom policies. And then we also started to think about what are ways to use ChatGPT in a regulated and positive, maybe idea generative measures, so that students could see the benefits, but also remember that developing their own voice is really important. And so, teachers began to experiment in a variety of different ways with how to utilize AI to the students' advantage, really. And then we had some early adopters amongst the faculty, and we would use those teachers as they were willing to share what they were doing with their colleagues, which was very positive. And then, obviously started to work on some policies and procedures as it related to the literature and what people were seeing and schools were seeing, and making sure that it connected, across all areas of school life. Both for students and for faculty. So,
Okay. Did that classroom policy that you created, did it hold?
I think so. We have an honor system here. And so, there are certainly students who have used AI to cheat on an academic assignment. Very similar most of the time to ways, people use Google or other search engines for I think you mentioned, like, just the cutting and pasting idea of so that we have an educational system there. We don't dismiss a student for a first offense. So we can, have the conversation about why, And most of the time, it comes down to running out of time or pressure, internal or external. And I think those conversations are very helpful and healthy and very important for our students and teachers to have, both in the moment, but also proactively. And I think that AI has actually helped us have more proactive conversation in that regard. It's also been, good for our teachers to have to think about different ways of assessment or different assessments. And that was something that we certainly um, probably spent the early time with our faculty on as it related to AI, was thinking about their assessments.
That's something I would love to know. What change did you guys do on the assignment and then do you guys make any changes there first of all, and after the student submission, how are you assessing it now?
So, I don't know that we would necessarily say we made a whole lot of policy adjustment, particularly. We do probably a little bit more writing in class,
Okay.
for just again, helping the development of voice. We've always done that. Lots of work in the class, project work in the lower grades here, so that the students were feeling that ownership of their learning and of the experience. Probably carrying that a little bit more into the upper school than we were. We're using, we're having them actually sort of share and document what they used, whether it's AI or other sources to help them, do the work that they've done. And then we're just making sure that we understand that, if you go and find a bunch of multiple choice questions on the internet, they can find them too.
Yeah.
And so we just have to be thoughtful in that regard, in figuring out how to balance it. So, making sure that we're not overemphasizing things that are easier to access maybe than they once were.
Right. No, absolutely. It took us time for the K-12 and even universities to change the type of questions, how to make it thoughtful, how to make it more reflective of an individual's voice. Um,
Right.
and it took a while, it took a time. Although now we could see that even those assignments can be still look a lot more individualistic through email through an AI. So how do you make it further? Um, it's something that's still unknown mystery, I would say. I think real time examinations, real time classroom work is one way to go. Um, I think there are a lot of other solutions like gamified solutions are coming in which
Hmm.
students are working collaboratively so that it can start, like the whole concept of assessments can change from an assignments to more like effort, and
Right.
how do you track those efforts is something which again technology can play a huge role, or even at a small level classroom changes can happen.
Hmm.
But like, did you guys put any guardrails? Like a lot of my other superintendent that I'm talking to, they're putting up some kind of citation norms. They're putting some data boundaries, so that students start giving credits. Is that happening? Something like that in your school?
We have expectation of citation. Our when we look at our you know, AI policies, we want to make sure that there's the understanding of giving credit where credit is due. I think is a big piece of that for us.
Hmm. No, absolutely. That's definitely the first way to go. Um, so I'm glad you guys are also up to it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Also, in the initial part, you mentioned that when it's a boarding school, it's a very different environment because you tend to see the children much more,
Mm-hmm.
3 meals and everything. But then you guys also have to start looking at the responsible use of AI after study hours, right? Where
Right.
there are a lot of use cases like students are talking to AI as a companion, they're talking to AI as a mental health support. Um, They are working with it for even medical purposes. Um, so, and since they're in the campus, you are responsible not only academically but outside academic hours. So, any kind of um, examples that you have seen that where you have to guys work proactively for it?
Well, I think, another really good question. So I think for us, we've definitely leaned into, students want teachers, they want adults in their lives. And so, as it relates to face-to-face interaction, we try to make sure that there are adults accessible, for conversation, and that's certainly nothing that's not different than it was before AI, but it's I think it's helpful. We've also started to make sure that the adults are informed as best we can be in terms of keeping up with what's going on. Looking over, for example, our technology use policy. We didn't have deep fakes
Yeah.
is a new term, right? That's both in the disciplinary system of the school, but also in the, kind of acceptable use of technology and in the skills-based um, curriculum in terms of discernment of information, right? Which is something that our students are having to do at volumes and rates significantly greater than what we had to try to navigate when we were students. So we're definitely trying to do that. We have some web filters which are helpful for us in case students are, on our network and they're searching for things that might be of concern, particularly around their mental health and self-harm and things of that nature, which can be helpful kind of from the adults' utilization of the tools that are available. Um, but it's interesting that you mentioned this. I just shared an article this morning about the way students are using Chat GPT to answer questions that are just on their minds, period. And a lot of those are around, um, you know, the pressures of school, mental health, sometimes relationships.
Yeah.
And so it's really, really good for us as adults to be aware of that, and make sure that in our case, we're leaning as far into human interaction as possible.
Hmm. No, absolutely. If you guys are providing that awareness to the students that they have a responsible human to talk to, who they can reach out, I think that's a great start of any kind of help. But correcting you, according to 2025, the first use case is actually mental health, is actually AI companions. So it has,
Hmm.
like earlier last year, it was way below the top 10 list. Now it's at number one. So,
Yep.
and again, the main reason is that it's not always about the lack of availability of support. It's about that comfort, that non-judgmental space, the ease of use, and yeah, I think. Plus, I think the biggest problem is with AI that it becomes a yes man or yes woman in this case, that
Hmm.
they will
Hmm.
always try to allure you. They always try to uh, show you a bright side and not confront you, and
Right.
that can be very pleasing because plus they are available
Mhm.
24/7. Uh, so
Right. Yep.
so unlike somebody who might not, like, you are trying to get their attention, they are always available. So
Sure.
yeah, I think that's a lot of critical aspects where AI can tend to be an easier way to go. And but yeah, I think providing support is one. Of course, hopefully, as a workshop is another one where you can share stories, ask students
Hmm.
stories, hopefully some volunteers. But yeah, that's definitely important. Um, Coming to the next part of how you guys are looking at the ethics element, right? Um, it's not talked about a lot, but the ethical element of using AI, whether it's copyrights, whether it is in like carbon footprint in itself, or even biases. Hallucination has been solved to a huge extent in the last 1 year, but bias still exists because it's not something that goes away immediately because AI is trained on the data which is provided on internet over the last 20 years, 30 years. So
Mm.
how are you guys dealing with that? How are you guys educating kids about those issues to navigate them?
Well, I think well, there's obviously a variety of different elements that you mentioned. I think one of the big ones, obviously, is data integrity, privacy.
Yeah.
In addition to obviously the obvious like academic integrity, and now really kind of again more hot button, if you will, in our world, the sort of deep fake or the ability to use, AI to be hurtful to others.
Yeah. Bullying.
Um, but bias in particular, I think, is something that we would say is our job is to help students learn how to think and not what to think. And so, as a result, we would actually, sort of just invite the conversation of what is the bias here,
Hmm.
um, and not necessarily is it biased, um, good or bad, but do you see where the bias is
Hmm.
as a starting point, as a skill that we feel like our students need to have, to be learners in our times. And I think it probably goes back to some of the things you read that they don't know unbiased news,
Oh yeah.
right? And everything has a bias. So are you skilled at identifying that bias so that you can make good decisions? And I think that's where it's important that you still have content, right? To think critically, you have to have something to think about. And AI it can actually present a lot of things to think about very, very quickly. And so how do you make sure that you are helping students and teachers to develop the skills to understand, that this is, there's no perfection in anything.
Right. No, I see. I think bias was always there. The fake news was always there. Um, it's just that AI can amplify anything 100x very quickly. So
Right.
it can be, even if the most critical thinker, most emotionally intelligent person can also get triggered pretty quickly, can get swayed in any direction pretty quickly. So yeah, I think the need of the hour is even further. How do we reconfirm and reteach uh, these skills becomes the, I would say, center body of how the future of schools look like. Because in my
Hmm.
opinion, uh, whether it's a curriculum content, it will get ready. It's getting readily available already. Even the direct
Absolutely.
instruction is getting available for almost free. So the future of schools will be about character building, about how you are as an individual. So and that's definitely a role that somebody will have to play, and schools will become the guardians uh,
Right.
for sure for that. And they are already the guardians. They have to just continue working on the new challenges that is might
Yeah.
hurt this. Um, Also about the resources part for investing in these products, these professional development.
Hmm.
Did you guys apply for any grants? Did you get any grants for that? And how are you guys? Because this might really be helpful for other school leaders to also know about.
We've done probably everything that we've done thus far, has just been sort of learning, from each other. and then just using kind of, resources that are available to us, um, at low to no cost. But, obviously with the exception probably of Toddle at this point and the instruments that it has. So it would be part of grants that our faculty might apply for within our internal process, but we haven't really done anything that specifically says this is, solely for AI. We've begun to explore a chat bot for our website. We're looking at a website redesign. So to your point, there's a sort of double-edged sword of that 24/7, but then that becoming your companion. And then in our case, if the website is an enrollment tool, how do you know who's interacting with your chatbot? And then how do you kind of take that interaction into a inquiry or an application, into the school? I think there's a lot of conversation about sort of creating class agents, for teachers to have a resource, if you will, that's a non-human, person that can help answer questions. But again, that's kind of, has those dynamics as part of it. So I can see some members of our community kind of digging into figuring out what are some best practices around those sorts of things as we kind of look into some of these additional adaptations that are either underway or about to be underway here.
No, absolutely.
Darling.
The whole reason of this discussion is to have the starting point, because I'm pretty sure within 6 months I'm gonna revisit this podcast. It will be
Right,
a
right.
different story, and I would definitely be happy to do it again so that we kind of able to reflect on what we said
Sure.
6 months back,
Absolutely.
how we
Absolutely.
from every aspect of school administration to accounting, finance, uh,
Absolutely.
infrastructure, school transportation, boarding school issues, meals,
Mm-hmm.
nutrition. There's so many aspects where AI can start impacting beyond just academics, because
Right.
like as an organization, you have multiple departments, like just like as any corporate company, they have
Mm-hmm.
segments to do, um, especially on the front of uh, going out and able to show like market your school as well. That's also very important
Mm-hmm.
element.
Yes.
So yeah, oh, this brings me to a question. Have you guys tried anything beyond academics, use of AI?
What do you mean in particular? You mean beyond sort of faculty, professional development and productivity tools and things like that?
Yeah,
I
beyond
think
that.
that's been the main thing is just introduction of different tools to the faculty to use either for their own productivity or for um, for student engagement. We've we I think there's so many programs now that have an aspect of artificial intelligence to them
Hmm.
that we're, as you mentioned, you went through a list of them that we're engaged with, but we haven't taken the sort of maybe next step in that to say, here is a tool that can go through all of your applications and tell you who your best candidates are. We haven't invested in something like that yet, or on the college counseling process. But we get a lot of solicitation around those products, and we have a good bit of conversation, but we haven't made a commitment to anything at this point.
No, absolutely. I think that's also an evolving field. I 100% expect that you will start using AI tools sometimes without explicitly, but
Yeah,
implicitly, because the other companies are also leveraging it uh, from
right.
from career guidance. I think that's a big segment, as you said, to inbound counseling of students who want to join your school. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I think
Mm-hmm.
finances and accounting will be impacted by a lot using AI.
Yes.
Um, Even I would say schedule management of the teachers can be a great segment where
And
AI.
we are using it for that actually more than we ever have before. So that's the one I had forgotten. Scheduling, which is amazing amount of time saved
Right.
and very accurate, and obviously all schools feel that they're special, right? And but you realize pretty quickly that maybe you have more in common than you think you do as you find external help.
Yeah. No, but I think beyond that, the bigger problem is that taking out time to change becomes difficult because everyone is so caught up in the daily business as usual task,
Sure.
which it's like firefighting on a daily basis. How do you take out time for 1 hour for peace where you can think beyond is difficult in a school setup. So that's why I have a different respect altogether for
Yeah.
schools and the administrations. But this has been fantastic, Brent. Anything that you want to add um, that might be helpful in this conversation we haven't covered?
I don't think so. I think this has been a great conversation for me, Avinash. I appreciate your time. I've learned some things and made some notes, and appreciate you having me on and being part of your podcast. And I'll appreciate or look forward to keeping up with Tomo Club and everything that you've got going on, and appreciate what you all are doing and trying to accomplish in terms of student engagement and well-being, and also thinking about schools aren't just students or students and faculty, but they're people places, and um, a lot of respect for that. So thank you.
Perfect. Now I'm definitely gonna use that for my for my internal communication because I love the way you have explained how we are approaching this. And thank you so much for those kind words. But yeah, it's been fun, Brent, and we'll be in touch. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thanks for tuning in. For more information about TomoClub, visit TomoClub or follow us on our socials. Stay curious, keep learning, and we'll see you next time.